So I was scrolling through all the different games I own on Steam, looking for something to play tonight, and I saw that I had Limbo downloaded. For whatever reason, I've never actually played through the game. Heck, I only had 2 minutes on the game according to Steam. And from everything I know about indie games, Limbo is a must-play title. So I decided, what better way to spend a Friday night than with a cup of tea and finishing a creepy puzzle platformer that had been on my list of games to be played for the last few years. The game opens with no explanation. We are seemingly a young boy in a dark forest with nowhere to go but forward. After descending into a cave and crossing a small lake with the most self-intimate boat ride, we climb a rope to face the first puzzle of the game. I want to call it a puzzle because I immediately jump into the trap and die, but after 5 seconds of analyzing, I realized you just move the traps and continue on your way. Quickly solving the first real puzzle of the game, using a spare trap, we cut off the dead weight holding down our rope to escape. One close call that would give Indiana Jones a run for his money, and I begin to realize this world wants nothing more than the boy dead. Coming to terms with this fact, I run into the nightmare fuel that is a huge spider blocking our path. Honestly, this really shouldn't be that scary. You can't even see the full thing, but I have a massive fear of spiders in real life. Anytime I see one of these things in a game, I instinctively cross my legs onto my chair, thinking one will possibly attack me or something. Killing the poor thing with a trap that they so kindly provided for us, we were able to continue on until we quickly get silk wrapped by their cousin. This section of the game was honestly pretty frustrating because our only movement is in little pogo bounces, and for whatever reason I could not stay steady on this rock. It did not help that the only thing I could focus on was the spider bigger than Aragog chasing us the entire time. A quick few hops, a handful more deaths, and a rock swing trap that broke my legs, and we move on to the section of the game that I'd like to refer to as elementary school. I want to call it that because these anonymous brat kids who continuously bully us began to show up. Unfortunately, that's short-lived, and the spiders come back. In particular, this one with only one leg is used for the next puzzle, and the only thing I can think of when it's on the screen is the spider baby from the first Toy Story. Between this nightmare fuel and the mutant toys from that movie, I still think Sid's Creations wins out for what caused me to have more sleepless nights. Continuing forward, we run into a pack of murderous teenagers who apparently only stand in one place their entire lives because we can see a previous victim dead right in front. Fortunately for us, they'd never scoped out their surroundings before, and they fall for the traps that lay only screens before them. At this point, I'm realizing the puzzles are becoming a little more fleshed out instead of just moving a box to let us jump to a higher spot. This also introduces the next puzzle mechanic of white brain slugs. It's honestly embarrassing how long it took for me to understand how these work. I thought they were on a timer system or something, and that they made you lose full control of your character. As it turns out, they just force you to go fully in the left direction until you reach a trigger, then force you fully in the right direction, and so on, until you get a chompy worm to eat it off your head. These puzzles end up being more straightforward than anything else in the endgame, once I understood how they worked, because you don't really have to think about where you're walking, you just kinda go there. With the addition of the white brain slugs, the next greatest puzzle mechanic is introduced of water. While the young boy doesn't know how to swim and drowns at the slightest level of water, there are floating wooden crates and other objects that allow us to traverse across the world still. A few straightforward water puzzles and one long white brain slug puzzle, and we finally make it back outside to see a hotel sign? Yeah, so something I don't really know and can't really talk about is where exactly we were walking through. I'm sure there's tons of theories online with forums and other YouTube videos, but I like to think we're just exploring through abandoned areas that themselves are between the dead and alive, hence Limbo. Not really the deepest, most intellectual thought, but I enjoyed the setting of the game, and that's all that really matters. Leaving the hotel and breaking through the glass ceiling, we enter a factory or docking area. Not entirely sure where we are still, but a place that notably has electricity. This electricity powers a lot of things, including moving platforms, gears, lights, and dangerous saw blades. Most of these puzzles were solved with no issue. Of course, I made the fatal mistake of not jumping to allow the chompy worms to eat the brain slug after completing everything, so I just sort of walked to my death, but outside of that one silly mistake, the claw game timing section to jump over the moving saws was smooth sailing. An intermission between factory sections is held with this bug. I sort of just ran at him no stop a few times, hoping to jump and catch a ride. Instead, you are meant to stealth approach the bug, only running at him while he's busy eating his food. After that brief respite, we continue on through the factory. Most of these puzzles are more of the same, with the introduction of electricity flooded floors that kill on the briefest touch. Once we climb through these moving platforms and gears, we push a small gear back into place and the world completely turns around. I mean this literally. The world starts to spin, opening the door to the next section. At this point, I have no idea the logistics of the entire building spinning around us, but at least it is convenient for us to get to hard to reach places. We continue to use this mechanic of spinning the perspective of the scene to allow for jumps that would otherwise be impossible. If this wasn't enough to make the world seem impossible, the next and final mechanic breaks all hope of this being reality. By a simple flip of a switch, we're able to turn off gravity completely. My favorite use of this mechanic is swapping it on and off again until you can push this box over a high ledge. The whole time I was asking myself why the gravity doesn't change for us, the player, to just go up there and grab it ourselves, but in exactly the next section and the final puzzles of the game, gravity changing does affect us. Once we abuse this gravity altering power to move through each section, we suddenly break through a glass panel. We lose control of our character, everything begins to slow down. At this point of playing, I'm completely shocked. We have reached the ending of our journey, and it all feels too fast. Limbo ends in the same way it started, seemingly out of nowhere with no explanation. While there is one more additional cutscene, it leaves the story completely up to the player's interpretation, and the credits begin to roll. That's it. That's Limbo. I don't know why I thought the ending would be more fulfilling, or that I thought it would get wrapped up more nicely with a better explanation of what we were doing or where we were, but the game never really gave any reason for me to have these thoughts. It's just what I wanted to believe. I think it's safe to say Limbo lacks a direct narrative, so each individual player can interpret the small amount of story in any way they want. The game ends exactly where we started. After playing through Limbo in one brief night, I'm happy to say that it was definitely worth playing. From a puzzle platformer perspective, the game definitely isn't too hard, and there are definitely better choices in the genre for people looking for complex puzzles to get them thinking. But something about Limbo, and the fact you can play it in its entirety in just one sitting, makes the game so compelling. Not for a second while playing did I want to leave my seat, and I can't really say why. Limbo for me is more an experience than it is a game. If you made it all the way through this video, I compel you to still go and play the game for yourself. I promise it's worth your time. I'm looking forward to trying Playdead's other game, Inside, in the near future, as I'm told it has a lot of the same themes and gameplay elements, with more weight backing it, especially those looking for a more concrete ending. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please do leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to see more. It means the world to us.